Hi y'all, Jeff here with Jeff's Cars, and welcome back to another video. And this was a little different, as we're gonna, as a lot of you know, I'm a Mercedes guy, and we're gonna talk a little bit about Mercedes-Benz again. Now, I read an article, and articles seem to pop up on on my laptop every day, and this article came as one of the things that it came about was the 15 best Mercedes-Benz of all time. That's pretty broad, and I don't know if a lot of you know, but Mercedes-Benz has been, actually, it's one of the car makers that have been around the longest. Long before, Henry Ford started producing the, mass producing the Ford car. Mercedes is actually one of the very first cars, motorized vehicles that were ever built. So, with that said, and these are going to go in order backwards. The number 15 best Mercedes of all times is the first Benz. I don't have a picture of it though. That's the problem. I could have gone to Wikipedia and probably looked it up, but it's there's a nice story behind it, and I've got a book someplace talking about it as well. The history of Mercedes, and I do have several books on Mercedes-Benz, but it's worth reading if you're kind of a history buff. But let's keep moving, because I don't want to make this video too long, because I want to get into my favorite Mercedes as well. So the number 14 on the list, and I'll turn my laptop around here, is the W124 500E. Now, I've had one of these in the 300E with a 3-liter 6-cylinder engine, but this has got a 5-liter V8 engine stuffed up in that engine compartment. And when it was produced, it did 0 to 60 in less than 6 seconds. They're rare to find in the United States, but when you do, I would say that's worth investing in. The next is there we go. The SLS AMG. So that's the gull wing doors, and it's a nice car, and it's obviously very highly collectible as well. The next one is really one of my favorites, and that is the 190E. Now, this came in several configurations. It came in the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder, and then the 2.6 liter 6-cylinder, and then of course you had other configurations in there as well. There was some performance ones, but this was built in the 80s and up to 1993, and I've owned one of these, and I had the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder, and it, quite frankly, is a peppy car, and very good on fuel. There were 1.8 million of those made. So you don't find these around much anymore, and when you do, they're becoming a collector car. The next one, and I've talked about this before, and this is the Mercedes 600 Grosser. Need I say more? This one, is really a kind of a dignitary type Mercedes, as well as owned by several movie stars and entertainers and things like that over the years. So I would love to have one myself. Finding them, it's going to be hard to find because there was only like 2,800 ever built, and so they're rare, and they're also going to be very expensive if you ever come across one. The next This is going back a few years, a lot of years, from the late 20s to the early 30s. It's the Mercedes 55K. Now, this is not the Gazelle, and the kit cars. This was a lot longer wheelbase than what those were, but you could see kind of the same similarities and things like that on the car. But you're in finding them in America, in the United States, is going to be slim to almost none. There may be a couple in a couple museums around the country, but chances are you're not going to find them. The next was a very popular car, and this is the 300 SD. Now, this is the long sedan. Well, it's back then it was not a long. Back then it was the standard sedan. The 116 chassis was made in the 280 SE, the 300 SD, the 220 SE. There were several configurations in that particular sedan, but the turbo diesel, in the 2 years that it was made, was probably the most reliable car. But I think Mercedes is calling this one of the best of all times because it had a great ride, in addition to a very stylish car. Now, its sister, where in the 123 chassis, during that same time period, there were millions and millions and millions made of the diesel because they were used as taxi cabs all over the world. But this one here is labeled to be one of the best of all time. The next one is the 500K Special Roadster. Now, there were only 30 of these ever built, so probably not a one in the United States, but it was a very stylish car, and you can tell how Mercedes has developed over the years to where we are today. The next one is probably one of my favorites, and this one happens to be, I found it is for sale, is in the 1960s, the 230 SL, otherwise known as the Pagoda. And this model of car was built from 63 to 71. And these are, quite frankly, very collectible, and I would love to get my hands on one, because in the United States market, they weren't as accepted, as a convertible sports car as much as they were over in Europe, obviously. But people started importing them into the United States, and the ones that are here were probably gray marketed. But, I've been around a couple of them. They are very nice looking. They have a nice stance to them. This one just happens to have the 2.3 liter 6-cylinder engine. They did come with a 2.8 liter 6-cylinder engine as well. So, or no, wait a minute, 2.3. That's the 4-cylinder, and it did come with the 2.8 liter 6-cylinder as well. A little later. Next, it's a roadster as well. We're talking the 300 SL from the late 50s up to 1962, but with the gull-wing doors. Now, this car, one of the best. This was an engineering marvel, because back then, this was one of the, it was in competition with the Corvette, the American Corvette. Mercedes had this version in fuel injection, I believe, but the non-gull wing in the regular SL version of that it was dual carbed, so it was this era was great. It was just a great era for pretty much a lot of car makers, including the American car makers. I would love to have one, but I don't have millions of dollars to go get one. The next car is the SLR McLaren. You know, these are again kind of a retro, little bit of a retro style, back to the, you know, to the Gullwing SL, but more of a modern take on it. The next is the E63 AMG. So this is technically, it's an E-Class cars. In fact, I talked about it, E-Class, you know, being kind of a great stepping point. As you notice, the very first car that, well, the second one was the 500E. That's when the, you know, W124 came out. That's when the E-Class began to be part of the Mercedes lineup. Well, here's an E-Class with the performance engine and being an AMG. So nice car, very, very you know, very, very performance oriented. The next, now we're going S-Class. This is the Maybach series. This is the Maybach 63. So this is the one with the extended door, and probably this one here is the partition one. Wonderful cars. I mean, I've never been in one, but I've seen it. I've seen one up close and personal, and yeah, it's really, really been. You talk about luxury. This is a Rolls-Royce competition right there. The next car, I don't know anything about it. Never seen one in person. Is the CLK GTR AMG from the late 90s. They're only 25 made, and it's a race car. And again, this is a supercar. I do not, you know, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I'm not a big supercar person. I don't care for supercars. You know, you could put me in a Lamborghini or, you know, you know, a Ferrari in front of me. Would I like to drive one? Yeah, sure. Who wouldn't? But is it a car that I'm going to, you know, go out and try and buy? No, just doesn't interest me. Well, this is a nice looking car. You can see it. It's got the Mercedes kind of look to it in the front end. It's just one of those multi-million-dollar cars that I'll never own in my lifetime. Lastly, believe it or not, it's another W124, but it's what they call the 300E Hammer. Now, we talked a little bit earlier in the video about putting a 5-liter. Well, now imagine putting a 6-liter V8 engine into the hood of that, and doing 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. It's a quad cam V8 engine. You know, and I got to tell you, by working in the engine compartment of that car, you know, with a 3-liter engine, I can't imagine adding 6 more cylinders, or actually adding, no, not 6 cylinders, a V8. So adding 2 more cylinders, but a bigger, you know, making it 6-liter, actually doubling the size of the engine, and putting it under the hood of that car. But the weight distribution of that and the performance of it, I can imagine how it would be out on the road. So there's my that's the 15 best Mercedes of all time, according to, you know, the source that I got that from. However, now I'm going to talk a little bit about my favorites. Now, while I like, you know, that one, and I do like the styling of the W124, it doesn't make my list. I do agree. I like the 300 SL, the Gullwing. I do like the 300 SD in the W126 or 116. Even though I have the 300 SD in the W126 chassis. But one of my favorites, and so those are 2 of them, you know, off that list. But the next, I do like the W126 and the C126. So I like the 560 SEL and the 560 SEC. Now I'm on my second 560 SEL, and I've owned an SEC, although it was the 380, and I enjoyed that car. I would love to find me a 560 SEC, that's not completely destroyed. And what would I trade for it? I don't know, but I can't own everything, obviously. The next on my list is the 230 SL, the Pagoda. I would love to have one of those. I would like to have the 560 SL in the R107, although I have the 350 SL in the first production year of the R107. I personally would like to have the early 80s in the R107 because they've refined it and they've added there's a little bit more body insulation and things like that. But I also like the 5.6 liter engine as well. The next thing, and I've got an R129. I have the 300 SL. I personally would like to have the 600 SL in the V12. I can't imagine again taking this car and putting a 5 liter V8 engine in it. I can't imagine putting a 6 liter V12 in an R129. But Mercedes did it, and while it's a little more difficult to work on, I understand it. It really is a phenomenal car to drive. And then others to mention is the W140, the S500. But I think, and because I've owned the S500 in the W140, I would like the S600 in the W140. Again, the V12. While the 5 liter V8 engine is a little bit better and it's more robust and lasts a little long, is more reliable, I still would like the performance of the V12 in the W140. And then, of course, we don't, I mentioned earlier the 300D in the turbo in the W123 chassis. And part of it's because of that 5-cylinder diesel engine. They are just phenomenal engines. They just, they'll outlast the car. And then last just to make note of, I do like the W108, specifically the 280 SEL in the 4.5. Now, I own a few of these, and part of the reason they're my favorites is because, well, I do own them, and I've been messing with them, and it takes time. But it also, a lot of people say, well, but Jeff, you spend a lot of money on them, and I said, well, yeah, it's maintenance. You've got to spend money on the cars, and I've bought them where they've been, they've been needing some help. So, quite frankly, it's a hobby and I enjoy it. Do I get to enjoy the cars that much? Well, this year I'm probably going to enjoy my 300 SL a little bit more now that I've got it sorted through. The 350 SL, which my wife has claimed, we're probably going to enjoy that a little bit. Keep watching the videos on that. As we progress. Hopefully here in a little over a month, we hope to have the a little over a month, about 6 weeks. We hope to have the car painted to its original Pagoda white, because it's 050 white, and it was the color of the white that was used on the Pagodas. That's the actual factory color. So we'll have that painted and then begin putting it all back together so that it's ready to drive around and take it to a car show. So keep watching. If you like the content, give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe, share this with your friends. The channel keeps growing, and I will continue to come up with more content again, I'm going to favor Mercedes-Benz because that's what I know. I mean, I'm not a Mercedes mechanic, but I'm learning as I go. So thanks for watching. We appreciate y'all, and have a great day. Thanks.